Leadership Talks with L. Wayne Smalls is an inspiring and uplifting show that focuses on the principles of leadership that allows leaders to achieve new heights of growth and success. Wayne Smalls is the CEO of L. Wayne Smalls and Associates, LLC, a leadership training and coaching company that uses bridge-building leadership principles that help leaders to create long-lasting legacies as they pave the way for the future leaders that follow them.
Good evening, good evening. Welcome to Leadership Talks with L. Wayne Smalls. It is my pleasure to be here with you this evening. I want to thank every one of you who decided to join us this evening. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you sharing with us and being a part of this. And I hope that you get something out of this. But before I get started, I would like to say that I hope everyone had a great and wonderful day. And if you did not, the day is not over. The good news is you still have time to turn things around. All you have to do is change your mindset, change your attitude, and you will begin to see that things will start to look a little bit differently, and you can have a good, strong ending to the rest of your day. And with that, I want to go ahead and get started with what we're going to talk about this afternoon or this evening. I want to talk about leadership gaps. Leadership gaps. And someone might say, well, what are leadership gaps, Wayne? Well, I am so happy that you asked me, because that's what we're going to be talking about today. And for those of you that are following us on social media, please feel free to ask your questions on the feeds, and I'll try to get to your questions as best as I can. But we're going to go ahead and talk about leadership gaps today. Those are those things that empty space between where we are and where we want to be. Leadership gaps are where we are now realistically and where we want to be as leaders, as people, as human beings. We all have goals. We all have dreams of things that we want to accomplish, successes that we would like to experience. And there are certain things that are stopping some of us from achieving those dreams. Why? Because we have leadership gaps. Now, you may say to yourself, all right, well, I've examined myself. I've heard you, Wayne. I heard you say that we need to look in the mirror and do some self-reflection, and I've done that, and I didn't see any leadership gaps in my life. And to you, I would say, very good. However, let's look again, because there's always something that we can actually improve upon, make it better for others, and become better leaders and better people. And what I mean by that is this. There are some things in your life that you possibly could be missing. You may not recognize these things as leadership gaps, or you might not say or see that you have a weakness that is preventing you from making it to the next level. That's why one good thing you should have at all times in your life is, one, a mentor, but also an accountability partner. Somebody who will tell you the truth about yourself. Someone who knows you and knows you well enough to know that I recognize some things that you could possibly change, and it could be a change for the better. We have to be open to that. Why? Because we have blind spots. What are blind spots? Blind spots are those things that you cannot see that others can. And what you cannot see can possibly hurt you, or it could prevent your growth. It could prevent you from being the success that you want to be. It could prevent you from being the leader that you want to be. And it could also prevent other people from trusting you as a leader, because you're not trustworthy enough to have that trust. You're not trustworthy enough to lead others, because you won't attend to those leadership gaps and those blind spots that you have. So let's keep it moving. Again, I'll repeat this. I said this earlier. Greatness lies in the gaps between where we are and where we want to be. Now, having said that, there are some of those leaders and just people in general who they just cannot be honest with themselves. They will not admit that they have faults. They won't admit that they have weaknesses. And it's those weaknesses and it's those faults that we don't want to look at that causes the leadership gaps in the first place. There are things that happen in our lives that sometimes they're bad. Sometimes they're things that we would like to forget. There could be things that we want to suppress. Some terrible things happen to people sometimes. And as they get older and as they go through life, they try to forget about those things. They try to overcompensate so that they can be better than the situation that they went through. But that can cause problems. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But one of my jobs as a coach, as a leadership expert, one of my jobs and something that I really enjoy doing is helping people to discover those gaps. Where are you now? What do you know? Or what do you think you know? And where are you trying to go? And how can I help you to get there? It's not my job to do it for you, but I love going through that process with you so that you can see where you need help and where you're weak and where you're strong. And believe it or not, those strong qualities that you do have as a leader combined with the weaknesses that you also have as a leader, when you put those things together, that will help you to become a better leader. We often tend to want to focus on the strong points. We often tend to want to illuminate those things that we do well and kind of shy away from the things that we don't do so well. But it all works together. All things works together for the good. If you use it properly, if you use the techniques properly to make yourself a more well-rounded person, you'll be a better leader for that. People will follow you and you will be able to achieve the success that you want to achieve in the first place. Now, sometimes we have people that are talented. Some people are just good at things. They're good at a particular service or a particular task. Some people can't think about this. Have you ever heard of a child who woke up one morning, never had any training, never went to any class, and was never taught, but was able to climb up on a piano stool and play the piano? No lessons, no classes, no nothing. Just get it. And we call that a prodigy. And it is. But it's also a talent. We have leaders who can just come up with problem solving. It seems to be seamless. It seems to be like they don't even put any thought into it. They can just solve problems. And oftentimes they can't really tell you why they know how to do that. Those people exist as well. There are some people that can pick up foreign languages with no problem. And they can't tell you why they know how to do that. They can't tell you how it is that they can pick things up that fast and speak another language. Leadership is similar to that. Sometimes we have things that we can do intuitively. Some things we just know how to do and we don't think about it, and we look around at other people and we say, well, doesn't everyone know how to do this? And sometimes the answer is no. That is a talent that you have. Having said all of that, when you know you have talents, when you know that you have a gift to do something, you are still required to pay attention to those things that you don't know how to do. You can't just focus on the good stuff and forget the bad. Those weaknesses can tear you apart if they're left neglected for long enough. So we have to make sure that that gap between our strengths and our weaknesses gets smaller and smaller and smaller. As much as possible, we'll never be just as good at everything we know how to do. That's just impossible. However, we can make it better. So moving on, in order for us to remember those weaknesses that we have and try to work on them, again, we have to go back to what we talked about before with the self-reflection and being honest with ourselves and making sure that we really take a really close look. It's not just surface level. We can't just say, what kind of person am I on the surface? What kind of person am I on the street? When people see me, when people talk to me, when I go to church, when I go to the movies, when I go here, there, the bank, the grocery store, it doesn't matter. When I'm out in public, what do people see? That's good, but I want to go deeper than that. I want to get into the innermost being and say, what kind of person am I on the inside? When I'm all alone in the middle of the night, what kind of person am I? If nobody's watching me, what kind of person am I? And that's very important because once you know who you are on the inside, deep down to the core, who you are, you really can develop, you really can take those things that are good, pour them out. You can also take those things that are bad or negative, pour them out as well. And I'll also add this. Those negative things that we try to suppress, they're really not suppressed. They come out in other ways. They come out usually in negative ways if we're not careful. For example, think of someone who was mistreated as a young child, whether it was incest or something inappropriate that happened to them by another adult when they were a small child. That is usually something that is suppressed. That is usually something that is forced to the background that comes up years and years later. Think about a supervisor or a boss that you had that was just a stickler for something, anything, something really, really stupid. To you, it was stupid, but to them, there was a reason why that was a pet peeve for them. There was a reason why they were so strong about that. They were so adamant about this one thing because of something that happened in their past. So let me share this story with you real quick. There was a man, successful man. His name was Michael. We'll call him Michael for this story. And Michael was very successful. He had been in business for years. And everyone that worked for Michael, they knew one thing about him. He was not going to tolerate a lie. There was zero tolerance for lies. And when you hear that, you think about that and you say, okay, well, yeah, that's good. What's wrong with that? Well, maybe nothing. However, Michael was such a stickler for that one thing that it caused him to distance himself from everybody else. It caused him to try to make people live up to a standard that for them was impossible. Here's why. Have you ever told a lie? Do you know anybody that has never told a lie? I don't. I don't know anybody that has not told a single lie in their entire lifetime. I don't know them. I'm not going to say they don't exist, but I don't know anybody like that. And I told plenty of lies in my lifetime. So that is something that is frowned upon, of course. That's something that we know is wrong. We all know that. But we've all been in situations where it was fight or flight, and we had to make a decision, and we chose self-preservation over a bad situation. Many of us have gone through that. And so Mr. Michael, he has zero tolerance for that. And remember this key term, zero tolerance. So because of this, like I said, the people that worked for Michael, they didn't like him. They couldn't relate to him. He didn't seem human. And for Michael, it was a simple thing. But Michael couldn't understand why people didn't respect him. He couldn't understand why his standard was not received as admirable, why it was not looked upon in a good way. Here's why. Michael forgot about the human piece. He forgot that people lie for whatever reason. It happens. So when you have a zero tolerance for something, you create another environment. There's pressure, there's stress there because there's zero tolerance. When you have a zero tolerance for something, you're leaving no room for somebody to make a mistake. You're leaving no room for someone to grow, and you're leaving no room for someone to be human. And Michael forgot about this. But here's the thing. Michael sought out a coach, a leadership coach, someone like me. And as Michael began to talk to this coach, the coach asked Michael, have you ever lied, Michael? And after a long pause, Michael thought about it, and he thought about it. He thought about it some more. And then he finally told a story about something that happened to him when he was in high school. Come to find out, Michael wanted to be a lawyer. But because Michael decided not to apply himself in high school, the only way he could get into college and into law school at this point was that he had to do very well. He had to do exceptionally well on the SAT test. And somehow Michael got his hands on a copy of the SAT test itself. He got his hands on that test, and he studied that test to the point where he got such a high grade, a high score on the SAT test that his principal called him into the office and asked him, "How did you do so well on the SAT?" And what did Michael do? He lied. Yes, if you say he lied, you are absolutely correct. He lied about it. And that lie ate him up so bad, he felt so bad about that, that he promised if he made it through that situation without getting caught, if he was able to move on from there and nobody knew about his secret, he would never lie again. And because of that promise that he made with himself, he decided that he should hold everybody else to that same promise. That was his standard. Zero tolerance, no lies. And if someone made an infraction on that, if someone violated that, they were history. So again, there was no room to learn, there was no room to grow, there was no room to make mistakes, and therefore there was no room to be human. And because of that, Michael didn't have any respect in his office. The people that followed him or worked for him did not trust him because in their eyes, someone who pretends never to lie is definitely, in fact, a liar. So that was the situation that Mr. Michael had to deal with. And going through the process, he understood that something in his past caused him to be the leader that he was that day. And he realized he had to make some changes. Now, that is not to say that we have to accept a bunch of liars in our organization. I am not saying that, ladies and gentlemen. But what I am saying is this. Michael discovered that one of his leadership gaps is that his zero tolerance for something was causing him to lose his ability to lead others. It caused him to lose his credibility with the people that were following him. Leadership gaps. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about those leadership gaps. One of the things that we have to remember as leaders is that we have to keep it real. We like to say that, right? Keep it real. Keep it real, leaders. We want to keep it real by being authentic leaders. What does that mean? We have to be real. We have to be ourselves. But while we're being ourselves, we have to understand that we need to improve all the time because we're not perfect. So those faults that we find that we have that we need to improve on, we need to work on those things. It does us no good to identify a problem with ourselves and then do nothing about it to change it. Changing is what makes us better than what we were yesterday. When you wake up tomorrow morning, what are you going to do to help yourself be a better person for the day and the next day and the day after that? What are you going to try to do to help somebody else? Authentic leadership is really what it says, being yourself. And like I mentioned a few minutes ago, when we look deep down inside, past that superficial stuff, I'm talking about way down to the core. When we really get down there and discover who we truly are, that's it. That's where we need to be. That's where we hit the rubber in the road. That's where it's at, right there, down at that core. That's how we get better. That's how we close those gaps in our leadership ability. And guess what else? We get to teach other people how to do that. I say this, it sounds easy coming out of my mouth, but this is not an easy thing to do. Why? It is hard to look in the mirror and say, I'm not as nice of a person as I thought I was. I'm not as good of a person as I thought I was. I'm not as good of a leader as I thought I was. Remember Michael? Michael thought he was a great leader. Michael thought he had it going on. Michael couldn't figure out what was wrong with these people. Why didn't they respect him? Why didn't they view him as this admirable, this guy that just had this high standard of living and never told a lie? He couldn't figure out what was wrong with that. And the truth of the matter was this: he lost that human touch. He lost that. He separated himself from the rest of humanity, so to speak. He separated himself from everybody else with this unrealistic standard. And yes, we know it's wrong to lie. We know that. But let's be honest about it. If push comes to shove, if it's life or death, or if it's a bad situation versus self-preservation, 9 times out of 10, the majority of us, we're going to look out for ourselves. We're going to make sure we're good. We're going to take care and make sure that we survive. That's human nature. You have to go past your human nature in order to never tell a lie. So in the workplace, we have to be realistic and say, okay, I know people are going to mess up. When you have a zero tolerance, and I know some of you out there know what I'm talking about and have heard the term zero tolerance. But when you have zero tolerance for something, that is it. There's no room for anything. If there's the slightest of infraction, the game is over. The party is over. You are out of there. And when you're working under that type of that stress, that environment, it's toxic. It's toxic. That's the best way I can describe that. It's a toxic environment because now you got a bunch of robots walking around you, pretending to do something. They're only trying to keep their job, not be fired. They do just enough to get by. They do just enough to stay off of your radar, but you are not getting the best production out of them. You are not getting the best out of those individuals. Why? Because they don't respect you. They don't like you. They don't care if your goals are met. They don't care if you're successful because you're not a good leader. Now that sounds weird, doesn't it? That might even sound realistic to some people. But guess what? If you could really get inside people's heads and see or hear what they were thinking about you, you might not like it. You might not like it. And don't get me wrong. This is not a popularity game. When it comes to leadership, it's tough. Sometimes we have to make tough decisions. I get all of that. But what I'm talking about right now is something else, something further than just being a person that can get something done at the job. That's okay if that's all you care about. But I'm talking about real leadership. I'm talking about having people that will sacrifice their lives voluntarily for you because you're just that good of a leader. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about having people that don't mind going above and beyond to make sure the mission is successful because you're a good leader. I'm talking about having people that have your back and dare somebody else to say anything negative about you because you're such a great leader. That's what I'm talking about. And that's what happens when you learn how to close those leadership gaps. I have anybody listening out there? Here's something else. As leaders, we never stop hoping for things to get better. If you're a leader that does not feel that way, maybe you should go back and question why you're a leader in the first place. Because as leaders, we should always look for ways to make things better. We should always strive for excellence. And when you feel like you've reached excellence, I can promise you this. There is more you can do still to get even better. So we should always keep that in mind and look for things to be better. Look at how we can make things better. So I've given you the shadow, which is where we are now in reality, not what we think, but where we truly are now and where we want to be. How far is your gap? How far is the distance between now, today, and where you want to be in the future? Are you close? Do you have a very long way to go? Do you not even know? I challenge you. I give you a challenge right now. Dig into your innermost self. Look at some of the things that you struggle with. Why do you procrastinate? Why is it that you know you have something to do, but you would rather wait till the last minute to get it done, if you do it at all? Why are there always things that stop you from reaching a dream or a goal, something that you said you wanted to do? What are those things? When you start identifying those things, you will start seeing a pattern. You'll start seeing the solution right in front of you. Procrastination goes hand in hand with fear. Most of the time. Fear paralyzes us, and then procrastination gives us the excuse for why we didn't do something. Oh, I'll get to it tomorrow. What if you don't make it to tomorrow? Oh, I'll do that some other time. Well, I don't think I'm good enough to do that. I'll get to it. I don't have time right now. I'm too busy. Well, if you don't do it now, when will you do it? Tomorrow's not guaranteed for anybody. And there are a whole lot of young people that are in the graveyard, just like there are older people. It's not just old people like we like to think. There are just as many young people right in the graveyard today who did not figure out what their purpose was and did not do anything to make it happen. Please don't let that be your testimony. I'm doing everything I can. That is my hope. That is my dream, to reach as many people on this earth as I can, to help them figure out their leadership gaps so that they can be the best version of themselves. That's my goal. That's my dream. That's my desire for you, and you. So that's what we wanted to share with you guys today. Thank y'all for joining us. I want to make sure I express to you just how important this is. If you're really serious about leadership and being a better leader for the people that follow you, the people that trust in you, the people that believe in you, if you want to be better for them and yourself, you really ought to take a closer look into leadership gaps and what that really means and how it can affect you in a negative way, just like it can help you to build yourself and make it a positive. So for more information, you can go to my website at www.lwaynesmalls.com. Let me say it again, www.lwaynesmalls.com. You can reach out to us, call us at 910-566-0238, or you can email us at waynespeaks@lwaynesmalls.com. And you can see all that information at the bottom of the screen there. I would also like to thank all of our sponsors. We have Leader Lifestyles, L. Wayne Smalls Global Leadership Consulting. We also have Mind Power. We have CCI, and the list is growing and growing. If you are interested in becoming a sponsor for Leadership Talks with L. Wayne Smalls, you can get in on the ground floor now, and I advise you to do so because coming up really fast, everything is going to be moving up. I promise you that. So if you are interested, reach out to us at the information that I provided. Hopefully I said something today that really struck a chord with you, caused you to think, and make you think about what kind of leadership gaps do you have in your life? Do you have some things that are preventing you from reaching a level of success that you said you wanted to reach? Are there things in your life that are stopping you from going the extra mile? Is there something holding you back? Did something happen in your childhood that's still affecting you today? Those are the questions that I hope you ask yourself, and I hope you think about these things. This is what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you all again for joining us, Leadership Talks with L. Wayne Smalls. We'll see you next time. Take care, and God bless you.
To achieve new heights of growth and success. Wayne Smalls is the CEO of L. Wayne Smalls & Associates, LLC, a leadership training and coaching company that uses bridge-building leadership principles that help leaders to create long-lasting legacies as they pave the way for the future leaders that follow them.